They have made it to the 2014 World Championships. Who will join them? Double kill, triple kill, gets the quadra, gets the pentakill! And they're going to solidify a trip to the World Championship.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the World's Reveal Show. I'm Rivington Bisson III, along with James Dash Patterson, and today we're going to reveal for the very first time the 4 groups for Worlds.
That's right, Riv. Today we'll take a look at each of the 16 teams and who they will be battling, with a prize to the quarterfinals in Busan on the line.
That's right. Now, besides Dash and myself, we have assembled a trio of experts who will break down each group. That is none other than Joshua Jat Leesman, Sam Kobe Harmon-Kensler, and David Freak Turley. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's going pretty well. And the nice thing is we've been kept completely in the dark, so I really just can't wait to see what these groups are.
Yeah, excited to start theory crafting here.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
All right, guys, before we reveal anything, let's take a quick look at the format for Worlds this year. As you know, there are 16 different teams who will be fighting to become the 2014 World Champion. Europe, Korea, and North America each have 3 teams in the championship, along with 2 teams from the GPL and 2 international wildcard teams.
These teams have been drawn into 4 groups, A, B, C, and D. The 4 teams in each group will face the other teams in that group twice for a total of 6 matches for each team. So that means that this year, Cloud9 is guaranteed to play more than 3 matches at Worlds.
That's right. The first group stage consists of groups A and B, and their matches will take place in Taiwan at the NTU Sports Center in Taipei, beginning on September 18th and wrapping up on September 21st. Groups C and D will play their matches in Stage 2, which takes place in Singapore at the Singapore Expo, and those games will start on September 25th and finish up on September 28th. The top 2 teams from each group will then advance to the quarterfinals in Busan, Korea, to battle it out at the Bexco Auditorium starting on October 3rd.
Now, the 4 best teams will then move on to the semifinals in Seoul, Korea, where they'll compete in the Olympic Gymnastics Arena on October 11th and the 12th. And then on October 19th, the 2 teams left standing will face each other in the Sangnam World Cup Stadium to decide who will be the 2014 World Champions and take home the Summoners Cup.
And because we believe that knowledge is power, here's how the group draw worked. All of the teams were sorted into 3 pools according to their regional seeding. The top pool is made up of the number 1 seeds from China, Europe, Korea, and North America, while the middle pool consists of the number 2 seeds from Europe and North America, along with the number 2 and 3 seeds from China and Korea, and the 2 teams from the GPL. The third pool consists of the number 3 seeds from Europe and North America, as well as the 2 international wildcard teams.
Each group is made up of 1 team from Pool 1, two teams from Pool 2, and 1 team from Pool 3. And just a heads up, there is a region limit as well, meaning that there can't be 2 teams from the same region in the same group.
That's right. And now that the math and legal disclaimers are out of the way, let's get to revealing and checking out the groups.
And what better place to start than with Group A?
Let's do it. The first team of the 4 teams in Group A is one of the 2 international wildcard teams, Turkey's Dark Passage. These guys are undisputably the best team in Turkey. They won every single season in their league in both 2013 and 2014. That's winter, spring, and summer for both years.
By winning this year's Turkish Grand Finals, the team qualified for the International Wildcard Tournament for the 2nd year in a row. And this time, they crushed their competition and earned their first trip to Worlds. Let's take a look at their lineup. In the top lane, it's Fabulous, and roaming the jungle is Crystal.
That's right. In the mid lane, it's held down by Naru. And to AD carry, it's Holy Phoenix. He was the first Turkish player to make it to Challenger in the EU West solo queue ladder, and he also earned a pentakill at this year's wildcard tournament.
He's supported by Touch, who's joined the team just before the International Wildcard match, where his performance at Gamescom took him from sub to starter in this year's World Championship.
So that's the first team. Now let's move on to the second. Joining Dark Passage will be the GPL's number 2 seed, AHQ Esports Club. While this is AHQ's first trip to Worlds, they have been a dominant team in the GPL for the last 2 years. They were favorites to represent the region last year before they were upset by the Gamania Bears at regionals.
But after some off-season roster changes, AHQ blasted into the 2014 season and finished second in both the spring and summer season. Just 2 weeks ago, they secured GPL's number 2 seed for Worlds by sweeping the Saigon Fantastic Five at the GPL Regionals. So let's take a look at this team's current lineup. In the top lane, it's Prides. Formerly the jungler for the team, he moved to the top after the team reformed. And Nas now fills the jungler role for the team.
And in the mid lane, it's Westdoor, who is widely regarded as one of the best players in the GPL. At one point, he was ranked number 1 in the North American, Korean, and Taiwanese solo queue ladders.
Rounding out the team in the bot lane is Garnet Devil as the AD carry and Green Tea at support.
All right, let's move on to the third team in Group A. It's going to be the number 2 seed from Korea's Champions League, Samsung White. This is the second straight trip to Worlds for Samsung White, who competed last year as Samsung Ozone.
While they did not make it out of the group stages at Worlds last year, losing in a tiebreaker to Gambit, they qualified for Worlds once again this year by beating the defending world champs SKT T1K in a circuit points tiebreaker match to secure the number 2 seed for Korea. 4 of the 5 players who qualified for Worlds last year remain on the team, so let's check out their roster. In the top lane, it's the teleport master Looper. Their jungler is Dandy, who is considered to be one of the best in the world with his Lee Sin pentakick.
And Pawn was the former mid laner for Samsung Blue until he traded places with Dade. While coming in at AD carry, it's Imp, or as many call him, Double Imp, because his playstyle is so closely related to Double Imps.
Rounding out the roster for Samsung White is Mata, who himself is often compared to Madlife. Fans of Champions have said if Madlife is God, then Mata is Buddha. Certainly high praise.
High praise indeed. And rounding things out in Group A is going to be the number 1 seed from China, Edward Gaming. This team was formed back in February, and in just 7 months, they have become one of the best teams in China. They finished second in the LPL spring season and then went on to win the spring playoffs, the summer season, and the summer playoffs. And during those summer playoffs, they only dropped 1 game.
Edward Gaming was assembled by picking some of the top Chinese players from teams like World Elite and Positive Energy and combining them into a super team. They're basically the Chinese version of Alliance.
All right, so let's take a look at their roster. Koro1 is in the top lane. And in the jungle, it's Clear Love, formerly of Team World Elite, where he competed in the Season 2 World Championship.
Their mid laner is Yu, which is short for Unstoppable, and the first half of their bot lane is the AD carry, Name, who is regarded as one of the best in the world and the most popular player in the region right now. He's also the first player to win 3 straight LPL titles.
That's right. He is joined by their support FCZF, another former member of World Elite who competed at Worlds with Clear Love. He is often called a support carry and has played unconventional supports like Elise, Syndra, and even Twisted Fate.
And Riv, by the way, you probably don't know that I studied Mandarin. His name actually stands for Fong Zong Zhui Fong, which means chase the wind on a windy day.
Amazing. So these are the 4 teams that will face off in Group A as the first stage of Worlds gets underway on September 18th. It's China's Edward Gaming as the number 1 seed from the LPL and the number 2 seed from Korea's champions, Samsung White.
With the number 2 seed from the GPL AHQ Esports Club and one of the international wildcards, Turkey's Dark Passage.
That's right. All right, guys, there have been Group A revealed for everyone for the very first time. Chat, let's start with you. What are your initial thought about the matchups?
I mean, seeing this group, when we saw that Dark Passage and HQ were in the first group, we were kind of thinking like dream group for whoever the next 2 teams are.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the next 2 teams are 2 of the strongest teams at Worlds. This is a really lopsided group in power, like some pretty weak teams and some really strong teams.
Yeah, like your first feeling is, oh man, I feel bad for AHQ and Dark Passage.
Yeah.
But the second thing is, I'm so excited for the matchup between White and EDG, just because they match up really well, I think.
Yeah.
EDG, yes, they're incredibly scary right now. However, they showed a couple windows, actually, in the Chinese regionals this weekend. And first one was their early game. They kind of flubbed up an early dragon and an early tower. And White have a very strong early game as well. The other thing is the mid laner for EDG, Yu, with a couple of unforced errors. I think if Dandy can help Pawn take control of that mid lane early, White can come out of this one as number 1, even though they're the second seed.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup. Of course, it is the group of life with teams who just don't need any help getting out of the group stage. Those were those are the two teams I would guess to get out of the group stage, no matter what group they were in. There wasn't a possible bad group for those two. But
Seemed like
yeah, ultimately, it's just a matter of the fact that it's a battle for first and a battle for third. And it can matter, honestly, who gets first. It'll generally be an easier seeding into the quarterfinals. And third place is still at least a difference in prize money, and it's a difference in terms of sort of national pride and whatnot. So there's going to be two really fun battles there, but it's kind of the only two matches I'm going to watch.
Yeah, for some more context, like AHQ, second seed from the GPL, but they were very far in second. Like they got 3-0'd by TPA very convincingly in their finals. Just to touch on Samsung White a little bit more, a lot of people think they're the best team at Worlds. So like whichever group the number 2 Korean team got drawn into was probably going to have a bad time for most of it. So it's really unfortunate for HQ and Dark Passage. They didn't have many hopes of getting out of a group to begin with. And then EDG is regarded as pretty much by far the best team in China. But this, as you said, will be a great measuring stick against a top Korean team.
I mean, and it's not just White's laning phase that everyone talks about, but also their map movements and their timing for objectives, their positioning, prepping for those timing is immaculate. So very excited for this one.
What I'm also kind of interested about with this group draw is it makes every other group really a lot closer. Because you have the best team in China, arguably the best team in Korea, and two of the probably weaker teams from pools 2 and 3. So the other three groups are going to be really close.
It's true, because we were always worried. It's like, what if SEA number 2 gets drawn with the international wildcard team? Those two top teams, they were going to make it out of groups easy. And it's like, well, those are the two top teams that were probably going to make a death group for someone. So.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, we have to ask you still, before we head on to Group B, I need to find out who your favorites are. Who are your 2 favorites in Group A? Which squads do you think will be advancing to the quarterfinals here? Jap, again, we'll start with you.
I feel like I can speak for these guys. EDG and Samsung White. I'd say number 1 is actually White. They're probably favored in this group because potentially the best team at Worlds, and EDG to take second.
Yeah, I think that we're going to agree with you. I am excited to see Westor finally perform because this guy's been playing the game for so long. I remember pre-season 1, he was playing on the North American server because they didn't even have a server.
Yeah, I agree with you down the line. Number 1, Samsung White. Number 2 is going to be EDG. And yeah, I want to see if Westor can carry. It'll be fun.
All right, so you've heard from our experts, but now we'd like you to tell us your 2 favorites from Group A. Send a tweet to us at LOL Esports with the hashtag WorldsGroupA.
And not that Group A isn't an exciting name, but let's see if you can add some swag to it. So send your nickname suggestions for Group A to us on Twitter with the hashtag @WorldsGroupA. And we'll reveal our favorites on the Worlds Preview show that airs on September 17th.
That's right. Now let's move on to Group B. They'll be competing alongside Group A in Taipei. The first team in Group B is the number 3 seed from the European League Championship Series. It's going to be SK Gaming. This is the second trip to Worlds for SK Gaming, and after blowing up their roster before the 2014 season, it's coming a lot sooner than most people expected.
No one except SK Gaming, that is. They finished the spring split regular season in first place before losing to Fnatic in the finals of the spring playoffs. Then in the summer split, they slipped a little, but managed to fight their way to a third-place finish at regionals and secure a trip to the 2014 World Championship.
That's right. So let's take a look at SK's not so new anymore lineup. In the top lane, you have Freddy122, who was brought over from Against All Authority. In the jungle, it's Sven Skaren, formerly of Ninjas in Pajamas.
Jeziz was moved from the Challenger Series to take the mid lane, and at AD carry, it's Candy Panda, who will be making his second trip to Worlds. While this will be the first trip to Worlds for N-Rated as a player, he was a coach for the Lemon Dogs, who made it to Worlds last year.
That's right, and that brings us to the second team in Group B. And that is the number 2 seed from China's LPL, Starhorn Royal Club. Most of you know them as the Royal Club team who qualified for Worlds last year, making it all the way to finals where they were beat by SKT T1K. After that loss, their mid and support players retired, and their top lane Ackerman left for LMQ.
After a disappointing spring season this year, the team was handed to new management, who shook up the roster by bringing in 4 new players. And with that new lineup, Royal Club took third place in the summer playoffs and earned a spot at the Chinese regional finals, where they qualified for LPL's number 2 seed.
So let's take a look at the team's current roster. In the top lane, it's Cola. And in the jungle, it's one of Korea's most famous junglers, Insect, who brought his famous kick to the LPL this season.
And in the mid lane for Royal Club is Korn. Uzi is the AD carry and the only returning member of the team that competed at Worlds last year. His Chinese nickname is Puppy due to the protect the puppy strategy, where the rest of the team will safeguard him until he turns into a late-game carrying machine. And joining the Puppy in the bot lane is another former Korean player, Zero.
Okay, now it's time to reveal the third team in Group B. This is the #1 seed from the GPL. It's Taiwan's Taipei Assassins. Ever since their underdog victory in the Season 2 World Championship, TPA is one of the most famous teams in League of Legends history.
After failing to qualify for the Season 3 World Championship, the team bounced back in 2014 and managed to win the GPL Winter, Spring, and Summer seasons and earn the GPL's #1 seed at Worlds.
All right, let's take a look at their lineup, which has seen multiple roster changes since that Season 2 World Championship. In the top lane, it's Aki, along with Wins in the jungle. And it's Morning in the mid lane, which actually sounds like a great AM talk show.
Yeah, it does. Coming in at ADC is BB, who is the only remaining member of the team that won the Season 2 World Championship. And rounding things out in the bot lane is their support, Jay.
And finally, we have the last of the 4 teams in Group B, and that is the #1 seed from the North American LCS, Team Solo Mid. TSM is one of the oldest and most recognized League of Legends teams competing today. In fact, they are so well known that you'll often hear audiences chanting TSM even when the team isn't playing.
They were originally formed back in 2011 to compete in the Season 1 Championship, where they placed 3rd. Since then, they have been one of North America's most dominant teams and are the only team in the world who has competed in every World Championship.
And they earned the #1 North American seed for this year's Worlds by beating their rivals Cloud9 in the playoffs for the first time ever, thanks in part to some new faces on the roster. So let's check out that lineup. It's Dyrus in the top lane, and it's worth noting that Dyrus and Fnatic's Yellowstar are the only 2 players to have qualified for all 4 World Championships.
Their jungler is Amazing, who came over from the Copenhagen Wolves in May when the Odd One stepped down. Their mid laner is, of course, Bjergsen, who also serves as the team's captain and shot caller and was the Spring Split MVP. And in the bot lane, it's Wild Turtle at AD carry, with TSM's newest member, Lustboy, at support.
And those are the 4 teams that are making up Group B. First, it's Team Solo Mid from the North American LCS and China's Starhorn Royal Club from the LPL.
Then we have the Taipei Assassins from the GPL, and finally SK Gaming from the European LCS.
So there you have Group B. Now let's send it over to the guys. Freak, you undoubtedly have some thoughts about these matchups. What are you thinking?
So this is a really, really interesting group.
Cool group.
Yeah.
So first of all, this is the best group TSM could hope for. There's no Koreans in it because they never beat Koreans, so that's good for them to start things out. Honestly, anyone could win this group. There's a lot of really good teams, and I'm just excited to see it play out.
I think one of the matchups that I'm really excited for is especially the TSM versus the Royal Club matchup here, because Uzi versus Wild Turtle in the bottom lane, both of these guys go crazy at times.
Yeah.
And both of these teams are also pretty aggressive early. So this is going to be like a really good clash and bloody games, I think, between those 2.
This is probably the coolest group at Worlds. I haven't even seen the other 2 groups. Only because every single team in here has a really interesting story. I mean, I even look at SK Gaming, the first team that comes in here. They're used to being completely underestimated, and if there's a place they can succeed, it would actually be in this group. Royal Club, we should actually mention, just because there's going to be confusion, Uzi is what everyone knows him as last year. Everyone's turned to calling him UZI, the letters in his name, so we'll be getting used to that. It's just, that's what everyone calls UZI, is how he refers to himself. Who's going to be awesome in this group? Like, seriously, TSM, you want to say they're lucky because they drew into a group without a Korean team.
Yeah.
But every team in this group can play.
Sure.
Which makes it so fascinating.
I mean, you're right. They didn't draw like an international wildcard team, which just honestly are huge underdogs. They could have drawn an easier group by getting AHQ instead of TPA. They could have, again, gotten a wildcard team instead of SK. But overall, this is still a very fun group with really strong teams. I really do like the Starhorn Royal Club matchups just in general. Again, all these teams are very good. It's going to be fun watching UZI run around and try to kill people.
Yeah.
But you can't underestimate any single team in this group. And Chinese teams, just like we see LMQ in North America, they're very aggressive. They don't always take the smartest risks. And so even though I think SHRC are a very strong team here and likely to make it out, there is upset potential in every single game here.
Yeah, and especially I think TPA, a lot of people will be underestimating them again, but they got so much stronger
Right.
with wins. And they
Yeah.
still have BB who can carry super hard. A lot of these teams actually, earlier in the year, were kind of a lot lower than they are now and made really big rises. Royal Club as well got a lot better much recently.
And everyone remembers that TPA that went to the All-Star Challenge and lost a lot of games, but they were playing at the time against the best teams pretty much from every single region. That's not necessarily true in groups. They have tons of potential to succeed in here. I really don't know how to call this group.
All right, guys. So as we did in Group A, which teams do you think have the best chance in this group? Freak, we'll start with you. What are your picks?
For me, my number one pick is going to be Starhorn Royal Club. I think they are just the strongest of the 4 teams coming out here. They are incredibly good. Number 2 for me is actually going to be TSM. I think TSM are strong enough to make it there, though my close third place is probably Taipei Assassins.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to do it again, but I think I'm going to agree with Freak. I do have to keep Royal Club there as number 1. And the second one is a close follow-up, but I'm going to go with TSM.
Yeah, well, I'm actually surprised both guys picked TSM, but honestly, I think TSM will win this group. Just
Really?
based on everything. They had such a strong run at the end of the season, and I think they'll continue to improve. Royal Club, even though they did finish second at regionals, were third in the LPL playoffs. They got beaten up by a lot of kind of shaky-looking teams. I know we're not doing dark horses. I think I think SK would be a dark horse, but I do think Royal Club is probably going to take second in this group.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. And of course, we want to hear from everyone watching as well.